The following is an exclusive presentation of Jessup Broadcasting, the sports leader in Southeast Georgia.
World famous. The world famous Butch and Bob Show.
And good morning. You're listening to the Big Dog, WIFO FM in Jessup, 105.5 on your FM dial, Big Dog Country Radio. Butch Hubbard here with you along with Bob Morgan on this Tuesday morning, the 7th day of April. World famous Butch and Bob Show brought to you by Murphy Builder Supply, located on Northeast Broad Street in downtown Jessup, and by Nips Car Wash, located on Highway 301 South, just past McDonald's on the left. And good morning, Bob.
Good morning.
All right, well, it's Tuesdays with Tillery. State Senator Blake Tillery on the phone with us. Bob, take it away.
And again, we made contact yesterday, asked you to be on the show, but didn't realize that it was going to be under these circumstances. I know you got to be tore up about State Senator Jack Hill. I know he's a good friend of yours. Got to meet him several times, but you worked closely with him. So just give us your thoughts on his what he meant to the state of Georgia.
Irreplaceable. I think we actually talked about him last week on this show. Jack was a gentleman. He was a statesman. He was someone who you could bring a problem to, and he worked to solve it even after you'd left the room. Such a close friend of all of ours because he was right there in Reedsville. He had actually represented Wayne County in the past before the last redistricting, about 2 redistrictings ago. Jack served in the Senate for 29 years. If you look at that Senate District 4, it's only had 2 senators since, I believe, 1966. Senator Joe Kennedy, who many of our listeners will know, and then Jack Hill replaced him. Replaced is not the right word, filled his seat in 1990 when Senator Kennedy passed, and then Jack served until yesterday.
Yeah.
He guided the budget for 18 years. You can't have a better man.
Held a lot of positions, chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee, vice chairman of the Senate Rules Committee, so it's a big loss, big holes to fill up there in the legislature. Especially
at this time, you're absolutely right.
Well, again, we'll move on from that. The session, as you mentioned, still on hold. No one seems to know when it's going to take place, but the bigger story is this virus. It's starting to spread through the state of Georgia pretty rapidly, especially across our district and your district. So, how do you deal with it every day? And what do you tell your residents and your constituents?
Well, a couple of things. There's still one county in Senate District 19 that has no cases. That's Montgomery County. The rest of us now, as we talked last week, I believe, still had 7 of the 11 that did not. We're expecting the number of cases to go up. As you know, early on we had an issue across the country, not just in Georgia, with testing. As more people are tested, we will see more positive results. What I'm keeping my eye on is 2 other figures. One is the hospitalizations, and then also on hospital vacancies. I've spoken with most of the hospital operators in our district. I spoke with Joe Irati yesterday. Incredibly encouraging conversation for what they're doing. First of all, looking at hospital vacancy. How many beds do we have? How many ICU beds do we have after that? What is our ventilator capacity? Right now in Wayne County, we're in great shape there. The issue where we've had some more issues, have had more problems, has been with PPE, personal protective equipment. You've heard that phrase that probably most of us didn't know 3 or 4 weeks ago, that now it seems like a household acronym. As physicians, as nurses enter into different rooms with people who have or potentially may have COVID-19, they have to wear protective equipment. We are actively seeking that out. Joe has done a great job of seeking that out for our community. He also has become incredibly creative. One of the things that we lose a lot are the gowns that are easy to put on when you walk into one of these rooms, but once you've used them one time, they have to normally be thrown away. Joe has partnered up with some contacts that local folks had to be able to get the fabric these are made out of that's actually washable. The CDC says we can wash it up to 20 times. Wayne Memorial is reusing them 10 times. If we know that the CDC says 20, feel safe at 10. We're sewing those down in Screven with a local contractor, keeping local people employed. It's an incredibly ingenious solution to a local problem. It's also allowing Wayne Memorial to help out some of our neighboring communities.
just joining us, State Senator Blake Tillery on the phone, and the governor has his stay-at-home order in place to the 13th, and he still continues to get criticized about the decision to open the beaches. You want to weigh in on that? Your thoughts on that?
I didn't run for governor. I know that there'll be people who critique him on either side. I think what you're seeing, though, is the governor's explained that the DNR, our great DNR staff, headed by Mark Williams right there out of our backyard in Wayne County, is maintaining social distancing. Some folks said you're safer on a sidewalk. Well, some of those sidewalks are 2 or 3 feet wide. The beach at times is 300 feet wide. They're not allowed to carry umbrellas. They're not allowed to carry chairs, coolers, etc., things that normally people would congregate around. They are allowed to go out there, run, walk, etc., and we do need to keep people healthy during this time, particularly when we know this is a disease that attacks the lungs, that attacks the pulmonary system.
How do you stop the concern that I heard from people down in Glenn County is once the governor made the decision to open the beaches, that a lot of rental places were being contacted by people in New York trying to get away from New York to come down to Georgia, and that's what their fear is. They don't want that deadly virus from New York coming to the state of Georgia. So how do you respond to that?
Yeah, I think that this has opened up our eyes to a lot of things that we hadn't handled in the past. One, we had not had a really good grasp of VRBOs or Airbnbs, the new hotels. There may be something that comes out of this later on where we just need to kind of know where they are for situations such as this. The order in place, if those folks are required to maintain social distancing, I don't know through the Interstate Commerce Clause how you can stop them at the border. Perhaps you can, but I think you'd probably have an Interstate Commerce Clause issue if you did.
Yeah, the good news is most people are doing what they've been asked to do, but of course there's always some that just don't follow the rules and guidelines. So what do you do with those people? What do you say to those people?
Well, we've had citations. That's not... I saw I believe the first person was cited in Troop or Muskogee County 2 days after the order went out. So this is being enforced by the State Patrol, by state officers. You've seen your DNR who are out there dispersing crowds that gather in areas like state parks, etc. The governor has deputized the local sheriff's departments and deputies to be able to enforce this as well. It's meant for our health. I hope that over time that this is helps us flatten the curve. And we've seen that as well. If you look at the modeling that we originally saw at the beginning of April and even back into March, you've seen that those numbers, the predicted hospital ratios, the beds we were going to need, et cetera, have fallen dramatically. Some of that, I think, was maybe some skewing of the data on the front end, but I also believe that the steps that we've taken have helped to flatten that as well.
The question that I keep asking, which just puzzles me tremendously, I asked the Lieutenant Governor. He said you might have the answer. He said there's a list, but I asked the question to Lieutenant Governor. I keep asking this question to everybody. Who is the person who determined what's essential and non-essential businesses? Because if you're a barber or you're a hairdresser or somebody that has a small business in Wayne County, it's essential to you. I mean, that's your livelihood. So why? Who makes that determination? Lieutenant Governor said he checked with you. He said there's a list, but who makes that? Who makes that list?
I appreciate him putting that one over to me. Lieutenant Governor's been a good. He's been a good friend, but I may have to call him and ask him about that.
But you see where I'm getting at? I mean,
yeah.
If you have a business, it's essential to you. I mean, but you've been ordered to shut down. So I don't understand who makes it essential and who makes that distinction. I haven't been able to get an answer to that question.
I think you really hit on the reason why the governor took this stay-at-home order so seriously and why he waited so long to implement it as late as he could. As you said, you and I can make a list of what we think is essential, and I bet you that a radio announcer and attorney would be on it. You know, we might talk to some of our friends, and they probably think attorneys are not essential ever. So that's it really is in the eye of the beholder. There's a federal list that lays out from a federal side the jobs that are considered essential. They go from everything from folks who work with utilities to nuclear power to healthcare to our supply chain. So that federal list is where things started from, and I saw that the governor took it and added more like he took a little bit of liberty and added a few more in there as well. Those who support those services, in other words, banks. It's hard for trucks in our supply chain system to run if they can't keep their financing going. It's also hard for them to run if they can't get gasoline. So those were left as well. But you're right. It's in the eye of the beholder, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's the other story right now. Everybody's concentrating on the number of deaths and the number of illnesses and the health crisis, but there's still the other side of the story is the economic impact that this is having, not only here in the state of Georgia, but across the United States as well. And, when you see all these events being canceled, and we had this story on sports for NCAA basketball. They say that's $1 billion income to the universities across the United States. But there's so many businesses that are concerned that, they could not recover from this. So I know there's a lot in place as far as small business loans and things like that. So do you think those will help the small business community, or, how do you see that playing out?
Definitely. The president and Congress's move on payroll protection, that you can apply for loans that will end up potentially becoming grants up to 250% of a monthly payroll. That's strategically placed to carry us out 8 weeks. In other situations where employees have to go on unemployment, in Georgia, our top weekly pay is $365 a week, matched with $600 from the feds. So you're looking at $965 to help families make it through this time, potentially weekly. The other thing that I want to point out is to take a deep look, and I want to point folks back at this, at the numbers. Remember that while our case count will continue to grow, we know this. We know that we have people who were likely infected and did not know it. As the testing continues to become more pervasive, and you saw yesterday 1,000 tests of the very fast test, the 15-minute test, through a partnership with the state of Georgia and CVS Pharmacy. As we see those tests go out, we will see that number climb. But keep your eyes on these other factors, on ICU beds, on ventilator occupancy, on hospital bed occupancy. I think those are going to be more relevant to us as that testing number begins to climb. Remember, we had 5 senators in the Georgia Senate that were diagnosed with COVID-19. Of those 5, only 1 needed hospital care. I'm not trying to minimize the how deadly this disease is. We lost a very good friend of mine in the mayor of Vidalia last week, since you and I had talked as well. But remember, it was only 1 out of those 5. So what we were really concerned about was an overrun of the hospitals. If we keep that percentage down, even though the number of tests continue to make the total of those infected go up, that's how we keep the runoff of the hospital. You've seen the local hospital in Wayne, what they've done to push off elective surgeries, et cetera, to save capacity. So that's what when I'm calling my hospital directors, I'm asking them, what do you need in PPE, and what's your occupancy, what's your vacancy rate right now, so that we know that we can handle folks if there is an influx in Wayne County.
I'll let you out on this one. This is as we just mentioned, Jack Hill just passed away. I saw where Reverend Joseph Lowry passed away, but people who are passing away, unfortunately, here locally, it's just the funerals are confined to just family, and people can't even mourn their friends. How do you address that?
You're right. I'm facing it, as I told you.
Like Jack Hill, what's going to take place? You would think, somebody like that, the entire state legislation wouldn't be there, but unfortunately with this virus, I'm sure that's not going to happen.
It won't happen immediately, as you're right. And it's hard to find closure. I don't know how to point people to that closure. I tell you where I find it is I find it in my faith. I know Jack. I know Jack was a Christian. We talked about it in his office. We prayed before budget days. I prayed for his wife with him just 2 weeks ago. Miss Ruth Ann, his wife, is is older as well. And I find my faith. I find my closure in the faith that I know that because of my belief in Christ, that I will one day see Jack again. For others, I don't know where they find that, but if they have questions about that, I certainly don't mind sharing that with them as well.
Senator Tillery, someone just texted into us to help us out here on the situation from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security Advisory Memorandum on Identification of Essential Critical Infrastructure Workers during the COVID-19 response. So,
that is the list.
There's the list right there. Homeland Security.
That is the list.
And, of course,
and it's a little bit wider.
Yeah.
Right. The governor's made it a little bit wider for those that support those services to keep those moving.
Right.
Well, again, we appreciate you being here, Blake, under, tough times. Everybody's sad to see the passing of the state senator, Jack Hill. Like I said, I had a chance to meet him several times. Just a great guy, but sad story. But, again, appreciate you calling in and stay
Blake,
safe. And
one question for you. Do y'all have any idea if y'all are going to go back into session? If you do, when?
Yeah, we have to. So, and we have to over the budget, which makes Jack's passing just so much more crucial and critical to our state. We have to pass a budget by July 1st. And we have the amended budget, which gets us to July 1st. We have to pass one afterwards. In fact, Jack and I talked yesterday. He finished the most current draft yesterday about 8:30 in the morning. He was working on it constantly. To say that he's irreplaceable is really an understatement. He was a giant in our community, and those shoes are shoes that no one will ever fill.
Okay. Senator Blake Tillery calling in this morning from Vidalia. Senator, we appreciate you very much taking time out of your busy schedule to be here on the world-famous Butch and Bob Show, and we look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks, guys. I hope y'all have a good morning.
Take care. 105.5 FM in Jessup, and we continue on with the world-famous Butch and Bob Show. And now on the phone with us is a representative from Red Cross. Bob, take it away.
are you there?
I sure am.
Okay.
We just hung up with Senator Blake Tillery, and so you just got in.
Timing was perfect. So introduce yourself and tell us what we need to know about the upcoming blood drive. I think the next one's set for Calvary Baptist Church a week from Monday, the 20th of April.
Actually, we have one right before that. But yeah, my name is Cindi Bauer, and I am with the American Red Cross, and I have the honor and privilege of working with all the good people in Jessup, trying to make sure that we've got a strong blood supply for the people that are battling cancer, have traumas, have blood disorders, and need surgeries. And, yes, a lot's going on in the Red Cross world. Because of the challenges that we're currently having, we're doing some things a little differently in order to be able to make sure that we're collecting the blood for our patients, but also we want to make sure that we're protecting our blood donors, our volunteers, and everybody that is coming in to work the drive, so our Red Cross staff as well. And what we're looking for, Bob, is young, healthy volunteers to help with the upcoming blood drives, as well as volunteer blood donors. We have a lot of people that have been very active in the blood programs, but they're at the age that they have more of a risk factor. And so they've asked us to try and help out as far as finding some healthy young volunteers who want to become engaged in community activities like blood programs to be able to help us out during this really unusual time. And we have 3 blood programs that I want to highlight coming up in Jessup. The first one is actually this Friday, April 10th, and that is at the VFW, and that is from 2 to 7. And you're going to notice when I'm mentioning these places that these are places that are larger spots, places that have a little bit more space for us to be able to protect the social distancing protocols. And then the First Baptist Church, of course, is our every other month blood drive, which is beautifully hosted by the auxiliary of the Shriners, and they just do a phenomenal job. But this time we're looking for a little help with that one as well. And then we've got First United Methodist Church on April 24th, and that one is from 2 to 7. So all of these are from 2 to 7, and it's April 10th, April 20th, and April 24th. We're seeing a lot of stuff on the news as far as social distancing and what we can do in order to be able to reduce the transfer of germs. And the Red Cross has taken some extraordinary precautionary measures in order to be able to try and make sure that we are doing everything we can to do the same. And so we're asking everyone, we always ask you to make an appointment and come in, walk in if you absolutely have to. But we're actually taking this a little step further, and we're really persuading anyone who wants to come into the blood drive and donate to please make an appointment. This will accomplish a few things. It'll help us with donor flow. It will help us make sure that we bring the proper number of bags and other equipment that we need in order to be able to make sure everybody has a great experience. And it will also, most importantly, help us with social distancing. So instead of having 10 people come in at the same time and us having to worry about making sure that they're a certain distance apart, if they make an appointment and come in at their appointment time, it'll help us just manage that flow a little bit better. And then we also are taking steps to try and reduce the number of touch points at the drive. So we're asking everyone who makes an appointment to do Rapid Pass. And for those of you out there that don't know what Rapid Pass is, we implemented it about 3 years ago. And it's a way that the morning of the blood program, you can go online to redcrossblood.org/Rapid Pass, and you can answer all of those questions that they ask you, such as have you traveled internationally? Where did you travel to? It helps us expedite the donation process, but it also, instead of somebody having to sit back behind a screen and key in each of their answers, yes or no or true or false, they've done that already before they arrive. So it's reducing the number of touch points at the drive. Before they even come into the actual drive space, we're going to be taking their temperature. And anybody who has a temperature of 99.5 or greater, we are going to ask to please reschedule. And we've been doing this now as far as taking the temperature for, probably about 3 weeks now. And we're finding that most of the people that are coming in don't have a temperature, so that's the good news. But there are a few that we have to ask to come back at another time and another blood drive and to contact their physician, because we just want to make sure that we're helping them get the right direction on whether their temperature might be that they just overheated by riding their bicycle to the blood drive, or whether it was that they were actually coming down with something, some sort of flu or virus or cold. So we just want to make sure we're doing our part there. When they get in, once they've registered, then it's going to move very, very quickly. They're going to get a name tag, and the name tag's going to have their appointment time on it, and we're going to put them in order that they came in and of their appointments, so that it's just a matter of just, going, down the line as far as making sure that they're getting handled promptly. Then, of course, we always take their temperature again, and that's for documentation for the Federal Drug Administration. We take their blood pressure, and we check their iron. And that's something that we always do. We have implemented additional protective gear. So, turn your hearing aid up if you wear one, because sometimes when they're wearing a mask, the information can be sound a little muffled. So we want to make sure that everybody can hear exactly what's going on. And then just if you're not feeling good on the day of the blood program, please cancel the appointment. Don't come. Allow somebody else to take that slot. But if you're feeling good and you want to come in, we'd love to have you. We're hoping to get some young volunteers from the high school that maybe want to help out and make some community service hours and make a difference in their community. So I know that Jan Arwood has reached out, and I believe Michelle is going to be reaching out also in order to be able to try and find a couple younger volunteers to help us through this time. But that's pretty much all I have, Bob. Bob, do you have any questions? Or
Well, as you mentioned, you're looking for people to make appointments. So tell them how they make an appointment before Friday arrives at the VFW and next Monday at the Jessup or Calvary Baptist Church. How do they make an appointment?
They would go online to redcrossblood.org, and then they would key in their zip code. And what will happen is it will bring up all three of them that are in the Jessup zip code. And then they'll be able to click on whichever one they choose, and it will show them all of the appointment times that are available. And then they click on whichever appointment time they would like, and then they simply fill in their first name, their last name, their date of birth, their phone number, and their email, so that if anything was to happen and a blood drive was to change rooms because the air conditioning isn't working, or maybe we had a situation where the building caught on fire, God forbid, or something like that, we could notify them of the change. Did that answer the question?
Yes, it does. We appreciate you calling in. Again, we'll look forward to the blood drives. Again, just run down the dates and times again. There's 3 this month. You mentioned the first one's this Friday, April the 10th at the VFW from 2 to 7, and the following is the one at Calvary. Go ahead and give the dates and times again.
You bet. 410, you hit that one on the head, 2 to 7 at the VFW, and then 420 at Jessup. It's the Jessup community. It's the Calvary Baptist Church. Thank you. I said First Baptist Church before, so thanks for catching that one. And then on 424 at First United Methodist Church, and that one is also 2 to 7. So we're trying to reach out to the people. I mean, a lot of people are sheltering in place. So the good news about that is we aren't having as many car accidents. And so some of the needs for a lot of blood have decreased, but the need for blood is consistent, and so we need to make sure we're getting as much blood as we can, as often as we can, so that it's fresh for all the people that need it.
And as always, all blood types are needed, and walk-ins are always welcome.
Walk-ins are always welcome, but we're really encouraging everybody to make an appointment if they absolutely can. We want to make sure we're servicing everybody, but the social distancing thing is real, and we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to respect that, and appointments are just another way that will allow us to do that.
Okay, Cindi, we appreciate you calling in. Always good to talk to you, and hopefully we'll get you back in the studio after this all clears out. But we do appreciate you calling in and, giving the important information about how important these blood drives are for everyone here in the community and across the state of Georgia. So we appreciate it very much.
Well, I'm just very grateful for your support. Thank you so much.
Okay, have a great day.
All right, take care, Cindi.
Bye-bye.
All right, WIFO 105.5 FM in Jessup, Big Dog Country Radio, world famous Butch and Bob Show here for this Tuesday morning. It is the 7th day of April. Blood drives, very important, Bob. It's good to see they still have them going regular 3 this month.
3 this month in Wayne County. So, again, if you get a chance to give the gift of life, give a pint of blood. Again, very important. And as you mentioned, please try to make an appointment before you get there. 1-800-RED-CROSS. So, just go on that website.
Well, I got this in the mail the other day, and as we know that the primary elections are still coming up on May 19th. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And this is says Secure the Vote, important information, application for official absentee ballot enclosed. So if I wanted to do absentee ballots, I just fill this thing out right here and
send it back
in.
That's correct.
It's from the Secretary of State's office. Brad there, and so I just filled this out and sent it back in. If I wanted to do absentee ballot, you can still do early voting, and you can, again, you vote on the day of the election, I guess. They'll still have that.
We can have that.
But they'll have these 6-foot markers, I'm sure, to keep people 6 foot away from each other. So all different type of ways that you can vote in the May 19th primary, in which the Republicans will pick their candidate and the Democrats will pick their candidate, and then
it's also the presidential primary.
And it's also the presidential primary.
If you already voted in the presidential primary during that early voting, you can't vote twice. Again,
Yeah.
and if you've already voted during that March 2nd to the 14th, the presidential primary, you'll be sent a ballot only for the May 19th general primary. But if you haven't voted, they'll send you one for both. So, again, both are coincide the same day. The presidential primary and the local primary is going to take place the same day, May 19th.
Okay.
And again, you have to be registered to vote by the 20th of this month in order to vote. So, again, that's also a key point. And if you're not sure if you're registered to vote, you can call the registrar's office at 427-5950, and they'll give you all that information. So, but if you want to be, there's an important election, sheriff's race here in Wayne County. So if you're not registered and you want to vote in that race, you have to do so by the 20th of this month.
All right. Just got a text in here, Bob. It says, Bob, show off your new cap. Bob got a gift this morning.
I like the new cap.
Here, let me hold it up to the camera up here.
Second Chance Band's cap. I like it. Tony Brinkley brought that to me. I appreciate it, Tony.
Let's see if I can get that where people can see it. There we go. Second Chance Band cap, official cap right there. And Brinkley brought it in this morning, right? And there it is right there. Bob's new cap. Very proud of it.
Looks good.
Yeah, it does look good. So, finally got that cap, Bob.
I like it.
All right. All right. Anything else on your mind this morning before we head out of the world-famous Butch and Bob Show?
Being a sports fanatic as I am, I'm just praying every day there is a college football season. I don't know what to do without college football this year, so I'm just praying.
Got to have that college football, right?
Like they said, if they told the whole state of Alabama wasn't going to be a college football season, everybody would be shut in.
Well, it's like, Vince Dooley, Coach Dooley was saying the fact that, and some other folks saying the fact that you got to have a vaccine before you can put thousands of people together again. I was reading yesterday that Bill Gates Foundation, they're putting billions, that's with a B now, billions of dollars into research. Of course, that's in addition to what the government's doing and all the other countries around the world. And there's 7 different clinics, research sites that he is helping finance, trying to see which one can come up with the first vaccine that'll work against the coronavirus. And they're testing one today, testing testing it on a healthy person, I guess, to see how they react to it. And so hopefully, within the next couple of months, we'll have a vaccine. You think with all these people working on it, with all this artificial intelligence and everything that we have out there, why don't they just put all that information into Big Blue, that IBM computer that beat everybody on Jeopardy, and say, here's the information, you figure it out. But that just shows you how difficult it is to come up with a vaccine for a virus when you got all these top scientists around the world working on it now for at least 3 or 4 months, or in China, 5 months, 6 months, trying to come up with a vaccine that will work.
Just hope and pray someone does come up with a vaccine quickly, because that seems to be the only thing that's going to help. So.
During the last pandemic, which was back in 2009 with the H1N1 virus with the swine flu, they started working on a vaccine in April of that year, and it was created and developed in November of that year. But that was 11 years ago, and of course we've advanced tremendously in our research, because there are other strains of coronavirus out there. This just happens to be COVID-19. And hopefully somebody will come up with something soon, Bob.
Let's hope. There's more and more, there's so many sad stories being told, but here's a sad story. This is somebody I knew, played for the 1980 national championship team, Frank Ross, who was a defensive captain. His mother died in Barcelona, Spain, and he says that's where his mother lives. He visits her twice a year. He was just there in October, but he knew with the world in the grip of this coronavirus pandemic in his home country, Spain, one of the countries in the world most severely impacted, he was probably going to have to forego the trip this spring. Again, his worst fears were realized this week. His mother was confirmed to have contracted the disease on the morning of March 30th. She died alone less than 24 hours later in the nursing home where she resided in Barcelona's suburb of Spain. She was 86 years of age. But again, he can't get there. Says they'll get there after the flights have been lifted and he can go. But, that's the thing that I talked to a friend of mine yesterday, even here locally, if someone a friend dies, the funerals are being confined to just family. So it's just...
it is a bad situation.
It's just a sad situation that, like I told somebody the other day, this has got to end soon because it's just not living.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not being able to go to church, you can't go to funerals, you can't go visit anybody in a nursing home, you can't get together to eat. I mean, it's it is what it is, but it's just not living.
Well, this headline right here is a little optimistic. It says that the CDC director, Robert Redfield, says that the COVID-19 death toll will be lower than projections. He said Americans are taking social distancing advice to heart, which will result in far fewer coronavirus deaths than predicted. And hopefully that will continue. So, folks, stay 6 feet away. Wash your hands. Sanitize your hands. I was in the post office yesterday here in Jessup, and a local doctor I saw in there. He had he had a mask on, not the surgical type mask, but the like a scarf type mask around his face as he was walking through there, which they say is sufficient. So just be careful, and the more we be careful, the quicker it'll go away.
I mean, just hats off to, and I said, driving around Wayne County, just seems to me that most people in Wayne County are doing exactly what they've been asked to do. And just hats off to them, because it's a difficult thing to do, but it is necessary at this time. So just appreciate everybody doing what they do. And like I said, hats off to the nurses and the doctors that are
health
on the
professionals
front line every day, right? And appreciate those people. So,
yeah. You don't have to stop your life. You just have to be careful when you're out there.
Jonathan and I are just thankful that we know we have an essential job, though.
Yeah, we have an essential job here. All right, Bob, have a good day. All right, the time now is 8:35. The world-famous Butch and Bob Show, brought to you by Murphy Builder Supply, where the builders buy. Get a lot of free time on your hand, time to do those home projects. The professionals there at Murphy Builder Supply can help you pick out the right materials.
The world famous Butch and Bob Show.